You wake to the sound of chains. Not in a dungeon, not in a battlefield, but on a cold stone floor where the darkness presses against your skin like a second body. The iron shackles bite your wrists with every breath, and you realize this isn't a dream. 3 days ago, you were a boy in a quiet village, chasing goats and grinding grain with your mother. Now, you're property. No name, no rights, no future of your own. Stripped of identity, catalogued like livestock, and about to be sold into one of the Roman Empire's most disturbing institutions, one so secret, most history books never dared to mention it. But this wasn't just slavery. This was a system built for beauty and designed for consumption. And what happened inside Rome's elite villas would haunt generations. It happened fast, so fast you still don't know how. One moment the sun was rising over your hillside village. You were tossing feed to the goats, barefoot in the dew-soaked grass. The next, screams, smoke. Men with hard eyes and cruel hands pouring through the streets like a wave of fire. They weren't there for gold, not for grain. They were there for bodies. They moved like butchers, scanning faces, gripping jaws, examining teeth, choosing their product with the efficiency of hunters at a meat market. You remember your mother's scream when they dragged you away. The last thing you saw of her was the hem of her dress crumpled in the dirt. Your name was Kais, a simple Celtic name passed down from your grandfather, but they never asked. To them, you weren't Kais. You were potential. Strong limbs, clear skin, golden hair, still young enough to mold, old enough to understand fear. They called you inventory, and the moment they tied your hands and shoved you into that cart, your childhood ended. Your captors spoke Latin, cold, clipped, transactional. You didn't understand their words, but the tone was unmistakable. It was the same voice your father used when haggling over livestock. The same dead-eyed evaluation of value and yield. Only now you were the livestock. And the market wasn't just Rome, it was something far worse. Because Rome didn't just buy slaves to work. Rome bought beauty to own it. The journey to Rome is a blur of hunger, bruises, and silence. You're packed into a cart with other children, some sobbing, some staring blankly, some already learning to obey. You don't speak, there's nothing left to say. But whatever horrors you imagined, Rome is worse. The slave markets are not wild or chaotic. They are precise, clinical, like a temple built to worship cruelty. Here, children aren't just sold, they're curated. You're stripped, scrubbed and oiled until your skin gleams unnaturally. Every scar, every blemish, erased or hidden. Your hair is trimmed by men who never speak your name. You're dressed in soft white tunics, chosen not for comfort, but for effect. Clothing designed to scream innocence. Then the buyers come. They don't shout or bargain. They circle you slowly, like predators surveying meat. They talk about you while standing inches away, as if you're not even there. Good teeth. Balanced features. Look at that colouring. Spun gold. To them, you're not a person, you're a delicatus. A delicate one. That's what they call boys like you, chosen not for labour, but for beauty, for display, for submission. You are not a slave who will work in the fields. You are something far more valuable. A living ornament, a companion, a plaything. The market for delicati isn't a secret, it's just ignored. And as one man lifts your chin to inspect your jawline under torchlight, you realize, the worse your fate, the more they'll pay. You're bought like a painting, not with excitement, not with cruelty, just business. Cold, calculated, final. Marcus Lucalis is the name of the man who now owns you. He's not a monster, not a brute. That would be easier. He's worse, refined. He studies you like an art collector examines marble. Your value isn't in your strength, it's in your softness. Your new home is breathtaking. Columns of ivory, mosaic floors, fountains that whisper in the dark. You're meant to be impressed. But the beauty is a cage, and you are the centerpiece. Your grooming begins the moment you arrive. You are bathed twice a day. Your skin is rubbed with oils and herbs. Your meals are measured, not to nourish, but to keep you small. Your voice is watched for signs of deepening. Muscle is a threat. Maturity is a flaw. Your childhood is not just stolen. It's being preserved like fruit in honey, stretched unnaturally for the desires of others. And then there's your education, not for your future, but for theirs. You study poetry to amuse your master, philosophy to sound intelligent, but not too intelligent. Music not for joy, but to be background noise while powerful men sip wine and admire the decor. And you're part of the decor. Even how you sit is rehearsed. How to look attentive without being bold. How to lower your eyes just enough. How to speak in perfect tone without ever seeming equal. Every lesson has one goal: shape you into an ideal possession, not a servant, not even a slave. A delicacy, designed to be consumed. You're led to his chamber the same way someone might be led to an altar, washed, perfumed, draped in silk. You're 13. Marcus Lucalis doesn't bark commands. He doesn't use chains or threats. He doesn't have to. The system already did that for him. What he offers now is a smile. But it isn't kindness, it's conquest in disguise. His room is candlelit, warm, passively soft, cushions everywhere, wine on the table, fruit carved into roses. He tells you you're lucky, that you're special, that most boys in your position live in barns or bleed in fields, but you've been chosen. He tells you you're beautiful, and you've heard that word before, but not like this. Then he calls you my treasure. That's when you understand. This isn't a home, it's a showroom. And tonight the centerpiece is being unwrapped. He touches your face like he's smoothing silk, whispers in a language you barely understand. And when he finally tells you to lie beside him, you do. Because what happens if you say no? You've seen the bruises on boys who resisted. You've heard the screams through the stone walls at night. You've watched delicati vanish after their voices changed, never to return. So you stay still. You let yourself become what they trained you to be. Silent, decorative, consumed. Afterward, he tells you that you were perfect. But you feel hollow, like something has been carved out of you and replaced with silence. And the worst part, tomorrow it will happen again. Because now you belong to him, not as a servant, not even as a child, but as a possession he uses and praises. After a few weeks, something strange begins to happen. You stop crying at night, not because it doesn't hurt anymore, but because your body has stopped believing anyone will hear you. Your thoughts don't feel like your own. They've been overwritten, rewritten, like a tablet scrubbed clean and filled with new inscriptions. At first you hated the touch. Now, you brace for it, you prepare for it, you anticipate which words will make him smile, which glances will keep him from getting bored. Because when he's bored, that's when it gets dangerous. You learn that flattery is safety, that obedience is survival, that your worth depends entirely on how well you play the role they scripted for you. And the most terrifying part? It starts to work. You catch yourself correcting other boys when they forget protocol. You sit straighter, smile softer, speak only when spoken to. You scold yourself for not looking delicate enough. And when Marcus calls you his little muse, your chest tightens, not with fear, but with something worse. Pride. The brain, like the body, adapts to survive. But this adaptation comes at a cost. The real you, the boy who once chased goats and laughed in the sun, is dissolving. In his place, a creature is being molded, polite, pleasing, perfect. You are being refined, they say. But what they're really doing is erasing you. Time doesn't pass the same way in captivity. There are no seasons here, only shadows that grow longer, voices that grow colder, and a silence that thickens in your chest. Your voice begins to deepen, your face sharpens. The softness that once made you desirable starts to fade. You notice it first when the hand that once lingered now pulls away. Marcus doesn't say it out loud, but you see it in his eyes. You're aging out of your purpose. And in this world, beauty isn't timeless, it's disposable. The things they once praised you for are now your greatest liability. Your innocence was a currency, your youth a weapon, but both are running out. The younger boys look at you differently now, with fear and pity, because they know what comes next. You're no longer the centerpiece at the table. You're the vase moved to the corner, still there, but forgotten. Some boys disappear when this moment comes, shipped off to gladiator schools, military camps, or sold again, this time to crueler hands with rougher appetites. Others simply vanish. You try to stay useful. You smile wider, speak softer, hope for one more week in silk instead of chains. But the clock is ticking, not toward adulthood, but toward irrelevance. And the empire that once cradled you in velvet is now waiting to cast you aside. Because in Rome, a child's worth was never measured in years lived, but in how many nights they could shine before being snuffed out. One day, without warning, Marcus is done with you. No ceremony, no goodbye. A scribe draws up a document, manumissio, a declaration of your freedom, a slave no more. You're handed clothes, coins, a name you never chose, and just like that, you're told you can leave. But freedom is a cruel joke when your mind is still in bondage. You walk through the streets of Rome with your head low, your steps careful. You flinch at raised voices, kneel when no one asked. You say, "Yes, master," to strangers before correcting yourself. Old reflexes die hard. You try to speak, to connect, to be, but your voice feels like a foreign tool, rusted, dull. And how do you return to a world you were stolen from? The village you came from is gone. The mother you barely remember would not recognize the thing you've become. You've been reshaped by silence, molded by power, polished by trauma. You're technically free, but only in the way a broken cage is called open. Others like you try to survive in Rome's underbelly. Some beg, some steal, some sell what little remains of their youth to survive another day. The city offers no safety net, only shadows. The empire doesn't track former delicati. Their stories don't get written in scrolls. Their names aren't etched into monuments. They vanish into alleyways, into oblivion, too used to be children, too damaged to be men. You were a delicatus. Now, you are nothing. And even in freedom, you carry chains that no law can break. The marble halls that once held you are silent now. The golden doors have long crumbled to dust. The empire that built this system has fallen, its glory faded into history, but the stories of boys like you, the delicati, have been buried deeper than any ruin, their names erased, their voices silenced. History loves to celebrate conquest and empire. It forgets the price paid in broken lives. Yet their suffering was real, their resilience extraordinary, and their stories matter, not just as tragedies of the past, but as warnings for today. Because power still finds ways to exploit youth, beauty, and vulnerability. The faces may have changed, the methods evolved, but the pattern remains. By remembering these forgotten boys, we honor their humanity. We challenge the silence, and we remind ourselves that beneath every empire, every grand narrative, are lives, complex, fragile, and too often erased. Their legacy is not just pain. It's a call to see the invisible, to hear the unheard, and to never forget. The empire that created this hidden world is gone, but its shadows linger. The delicate boys, once prized and discarded, are a haunting reminder of how power can strip away humanity, and how easily we forget those stories. Their names may be lost, but their silence speaks volumes. Remembering them means facing uncomfortable truths about exploitation, control, and survival. If their story unsettled you, share it. talk about it. Because history isn't just about the past, it's about the choices we make today. And maybe, just maybe, by shining a light on these forgotten lives, we can prevent others from walking those same dark corridors.